The auctioneer outside Ocala moved a camper van across the block last month in about 90 seconds. 9,000 miles on the odometer. Solar still bright on the roof. Lithium still bolted under the bench seat. The conversion shop's decal still stuck in the back window. The woman who ordered that van picked the cabinet stain herself and waited 14 months for a build slot. She was not in the room. She had handed the keys to her lender in March, and nothing on that van was broken. You have probably seen the headlines. Americans returning their vans. And I will be straight with you. Nobody returns a van. There is no counter and no 14-day window. What is happening has a worse ending, and by the time we are done, you will understand how a person hands back a 2-year-old van and still owes $20,000 afterward. 8 reasons. 4 of them nobody says out loud to a 65-year-old standing on a dealer lot with a checkbook in his pocket. Then the part at the end that is not a reason at all. The part about who gets paid every time one of these vans comes back. That is the one that should make you angry. Stay for it. The scale first. In 2021, the RV industry shipped 600,000 units. That was the peak. Last year, it shipped 342,000, and this year's forecast got revised down again. Higher financing costs, tightening household budgets, according to the industry's own president. But here is why this video is about vans specifically. Within that shrinking market, one segment got hit harder than anything else on the lot: Class B, the camper van. In 1 month late last year, Class B shipments fell almost 54% against the same month a year earlier, while Class A went up and Class C held flat. The vans are not selling new, and the used ones are coming back. Hold one more number, because everything hangs off it. The industry's own owner survey puts median RV use at about 30 days a year. 30. So somewhere tonight, there is a $180,000 vehicle under a cover in a side yard, financed for 2 decades, earning its keep 1 month out of 12. 3 honest caveats. 1. This is a crisis at the margins. Recreational vehicle lending has historically run clean paper, and the overwhelming majority of people watching are current. 2. The enormous numbers quoted online are repossession assignments, meaning authorizations sent to recovery agents rather than completed repossessions. So anybody waving a figure in the millions at you wants your click more than your understanding. 3. The worst paper here got written in 2021 and 2022 at boom prices, and lenders tightened hard afterward. All true. Also not the whole country. Hold both. 1 picture before the 8, and regular viewers know this one, so I will be quick. 2 lines. I call it the crossover. The first is what your van is worth, and it starts falling before you get it home. The second is what you owe, and early in a long note it barely moves, because almost every dollar goes to interest. When they cross, you own something. Before they cross, you are renting a vehicle you are also responsible for repairing. The banks call the space between them negative equity. The old-timers had a plainer word: underwater. Here are the 8 reasons those lines are not crossing. Number 1. The 20-year loan. This is the one that stops people cold when they finally read their own paperwork. A car loan runs 5 years, 6, sometimes 7. A secured recreational vehicle loan can run to 240 months, 20 years, on a vehicle with a windshield, a water pump, and a rubber roof. The reason is not complicated. A new Class B commonly lands between $150,000 and $200,000, and there is no honest way to make a payment on that look small across 5 years. Stretch it to 20, and a salesman can say a figure out loud without watching your face change. But a longer term does not make a van cheaper. It pushes the crossover out past the horizon of how long anybody actually keeps one. Now do the arithmetic nobody in that building will do for you. Sign a 240-month note at 66 years old, and that loan matures when you are 86. Say that out loud in your own kitchen. You find out inside 3 or 4 years whether this life fits you. The bank planned around 40. So when the answer turns out to be no, and for a lot of good people it does, they are not selling a van. They are escaping a mortgage with wheels on it. That is the loan. But the loan is only that large because of what it is paying for, and that is where the math gets strange. Number 2, the conversion tax. When you buy a converted van, you are buying two things welded together. Underneath is a commercial chassis, a Transit or a ProMaster or a Sprinter, with a market value anybody can look up in 4 minutes, because 10,000 of them run parcel routes in every city in America. Then there is everything the conversion shop bolted into it: cabinetry, solar, lithium, a diesel heater, 900 hours of careful labor. You financed both. The bank appraises mostly the first one. That interior can be half of what you paid, and on the wholesale side it is worth a fraction of that, because a used layout only fits the exact person who wanted that exact layout. So when a lender runs a surrendered van across the block, they are not selling somebody's home. They are selling a used cargo van with a stranger's furniture in it, to a room of buyers, pricing the chassis and discounting everything above the floor. That is why deficiency bills land in 5 figures. Everything so far has been about money. The next 2 are not, and they are the 2 I get letters about. Number 3, the body clock. I am going to say this plainly, because a great many of you are in the same age bracket I am, and the polite version of this advice is useless. A lot of people come to van life right at retirement. House sold, pension started, last kid settled, and at long last there is time. Wonderful reason to do it, and I will not talk anybody out of it. But look at how these vehicles are designed. The bed is up high, and you get into it by climbing. The shower, where there is one, is a wet closet you fold yourself into. None of that registers at 55. It registers differently at 70. And a high-roof van in a crosswind, on an unfamiliar pass at dusk, asks a great deal more of your eyes and your shoulders at 68 than that road asked at 40. Most people will not say that out loud, especially not to a spouse who is enjoying themselves. Then the medical calendar arrives. A knee that needs replacing. A diagnosis that anchors both of you to one city and one specialist for 18 months. None of that is failure. It is arithmetic that showed up on schedule, but it explains a very particular van in that lane. Low mileage, beautiful condition, every service record in a folder in the glove box, surrendered by somebody who cared for it right up to the last morning. The saddest units on the lot, and the best used vans on the market. And there is a version of this that goes further than a knee. Number 4, what happens to the person you leave behind? Nobody in that finance office will raise this with you, so I will. The loan does not evaporate when you do. A 20-year note signed in your 60s is likely to outlive the person who signed it. If your spouse co-signed, that debt is simply theirs now. The whole thing, not half. If they did not, it generally becomes a claim against your estate, which means the van gets sold and the shortfall comes out of whatever you meant to leave behind. Community property states look different again. It varies by state, and I am a man who has spent his life around vehicles, rather than a lawyer, so sit down with somebody who knows yours. But the shape is the same everywhere. Picture a woman in her 70s, 6 weeks after a funeral, who never drove the van, and cannot drive it, holding a $110,000 balance on a vehicle worth $70,000. She surrenders it, because there is nothing else to do. Then a bill arrives for the difference, on a vehicle she never wanted, and will never sit in again. I have watched that envelope get opened. It is the most preventable thing in this video, and the prevention is boring. Know whether your spouse is on that note. Keep the term short enough that the loan cannot outlive the plan, and carry the right coverage, which brings us to the next one. Number 5, the insurance surprise. A camper van does not insure like a van, and almost nobody finds that out until a renewal notice lands. Insurers treat Class B units as specialty vehicles, with custom components that cost several times what standard van parts do, and a thin network of shops qualified to touch them. But the real exposure is the question nobody answers honestly at the kitchen table, which is whether you live in it. Full-time occupancy is a different risk category with different coverage. and a policy written as recreational use can leave you exposed when an adjuster starts asking where you sleep. Then the compounding effect, which is what actually breaks budgets. Your payment is fixed. Your income, if you are retired, moves once a year by whatever the cost of living adjustment happens to be. Your premium moves whenever the carrier feels like it. The payment never changed, but the number that has to clear every month did. That is the crack that starts the whole thing, more often than any dramatic event. And insurance is not the only bill that waits a few years and then arrives all at once. Number 6. The systems clock. A conversion is not one machine. It is 9 machines sharing a roof, installed on the same afternoon by the same crew, which means they age on the same schedule. The house batteries, the solar controller, the inverter, the water heater, and the sealant around every penetration in that roof. In year 1, none of it needs anything. Around years 4 through 6, several start asking at once, and the sealant asks first and loudest, because water is what kills a conversion, not mileage. Water. So the van still drives beautifully. 60,000 miles on a Sprinter is nothing, and yet it needs $5,000 of work that has nothing to do with the drivetrain, on a vehicle with 14 years of payments left. People will spend that once. Twice starts to feel like throwing good money after bad, and that second bill is usually the year the van goes up for sale. Before the last 2 reasons and the part about who gets paid, I want to hand you something. I put together a guide called the Van Life Savings Manual. It exists as a download instead of a video for a boring reason. It is 40 pages of specifics, and specifics do not survive being read aloud. The overnight parking playbook, state by state, with the spots that get you a knock on the window at 2 in the morning and the ones that never do. The exact wording to give an insurer so a full-time claim does not get taken apart 18 months later. The phone script for calling a lender before you miss a payment, word for word, including the 2 things you should never volunteer. A gentleman in Arizona used that script last spring and came off the call with a 3-month deferment, and the paperwork checklist for selling privately when you still owe money and do not hold the title. That is a 2-hour video nobody would finish. It is a 40-minute read you will come back to. Scan the code on your screen, or the link is under this video. Number 7. The parking squeeze. The van life budget only works if the parking is free or close to it. That was true a decade ago, and it gets less true every year. Dispersed camping on public land has moved to permits, seasonal closures, and 14-day limits that get enforced now by rangers who have your plate. And a private campground runs close to what an apartment costs in a small town. So somebody who budgeted for sleeping free 4 nights a week ends up paying for 6. It does not photograph well, and nobody makes a video about it, but it turns a workable budget into an unworkable one. That one costs money slowly. This last one costs it all at once. Number 8. The repair desert. A camper van has 2 separate maintenance worlds, and neither is fast. The chassis runs on commercial fleet schedules, so a serious job can mean weeks, and the shops that repair the house systems are scattered thin with waiting lists to match. Now put yourself in it. You are 1,000 miles from home in a town you picked off a map. The van is your transportation and your bedroom both. It goes into a bay on a Tuesday, and the service writer says 3 weeks. Where do you sleep? A motel for 3 weeks, on top of the payment, the insurance, and the repair bill. That is how a $2,000 job becomes a $6,000 month. It happens once, and nobody panics. The second time, people start doing arithmetic they do not enjoy. So those are the 8, and everyone is real. But none of them explain why the deal was built this way. A wreck this size does not happen by accident, and nobody ends up in that Ocala lane without somebody else making money. So let us follow it calmly. No conspiracy required. Start in the finance office. That little room they walk you into after you have shaken hands on the price. When you think the negotiating is finished. It is not. That room is where the store makes its real money. 3 ways. First, the rate. When the dealer shops your loan, the bank comes back with a buy rate, which is the number you actually qualified for. The dealer is permitted to quote you a higher one and keep the spread. On a 15-year term, a point or two of markup is thousands of dollars for the 15 minutes it took to not mention your real rate. Second, the products. The service contract, the tire and wheel plan, and gap coverage, which I find almost poetic. Gap pays the difference between what a totaled vehicle is worth and what you still owe. So the deal creates the shortfall, and then the same desk sells you a policy against it and keeps about half of what that policy costs. Third, the term. Nobody in that room is paid to ask whether you should buy this van. Everybody there is paid on whether the payment fits the box on the form, and 240 months is the wand that makes any payment fit any box. Then the loan leaves the building. It gets bundled with a few thousand others and sold to investors. And by the time your first payment posts, the paper with your name on it is a yield number on a screen in an office you will never see. There is no villain in a black hat here. There is simply no money in selling a retired couple a modest 3-year-old van on a 5-year note they can afford. There is a great deal of money in a $180,000 unit on a 20-year note at a marked up rate with 3 products stacked on top. The store gets the reserve, the bank gets the interest, the products people get their cut, the investors get their yield. And every one of them gets paid in full even when you hand back the keys, because the deficiency balance means you keep paying long after the van is gone. Nobody planned the wreck. They built a road where the wreck pays better than the safe arrival. So what does this mean for you, standing in your own driveway? 5 things. 1. Find your 2 lines this week. Call your lender and ask for the 10-day payoff, the real number, not the balance on the app. Then find what your van would honestly bring today, the trade number, not the dreamy listing you saw on a forum. Subtract. If the payoff is smaller, you have equity and options. If it is bigger, now you know your number, and knowing it changes every decision after it. 20 minutes costs nothing. 2. If you are underwater and the van runs, keep it. The worst move an upside-down owner can make is the one the billboard recommends, trading out and rolling the whole forward into a fresh loan. Depreciation flattens after the early years, while your principal paydown speeds up. Those lines are coming toward each other. Let them cross. 3. If you are shopping, buy the depreciation somebody else already paid for. A 3 to 5-year-old van has absorbed the steepest part of the fall and still has good years in it. 4. Walk in with your own financing approved from a bank or a credit union, because a real rate in your pocket is the only defense against a marked up one. Keep the term short. Put real money down. And if the payment does not work at a short term, then the van does not work. Stretching does not change that. It hides it. 5. Handle the paperwork nobody wants to. Know whether your spouse is on that note. Know what your state does with a deficiency balance in an estate. And if you are already drowning, call the lender before you miss a payment rather than after. Do those 5 things, and here is the moment I want for you. A year or 3 down the road, you are standing beside a van that is entirely, boringly, gloriously yours. No payment, no gap, no lender with an opinion about where you sleep. And when the next ad tells you that you deserve something newer with a bigger fridge for a few hundred a month, you will hear the 15 years of interest hiding inside that sentence, and you will smile and go make coffee in your own kitchen with the door open to whatever is outside it. So tell me in the comments, what is your situation right now, honestly, because this is a judgment-free zone run by a man who has personally made most of these mistakes at least once. Or did you hand back a set of keys and live to tell about it? Because those stories help people more than anything I can say from here. Tell me what you are driving, how many miles she has got, and where you are parked tonight. I read every comment, all of them. And subscribe, because next time we are going after the most expensive 4 inches on any camper van, the roof seams. I will show you what happens behind a wall panel when a seam gives up, and why a van that looks perfect in photos can already be finished inside. Until then, keep your loan short, keep your roof sealed, and keep the keys in your own pocket where they belong. I will see you in the next one.